LSU recruiting, Ed Orgeron continues to ride this heater. Man, I tell you what, after what looked like to some a lull amid quarantine, when really, you know what it was? I don't even think it was a lull. I think it was Tennessee had that run. Remember Tennessee had the 2-week run where they popped like 15 recruits. And I think some looked around and were like, why isn't LSU getting commitments? Like, well, when you're recruiting major national recruits, a lot of those guys aren't going to make their decision until closer to signing day or the All-Star games or whatever. So it's really not a big deal. Just be patient with it as it goes along. Well, they've broken the seal, so to speak. All of you game day beer drinkers know exactly what I'm talking about. LSU's broken the seal, and they are now up to 16 commits, ranked 5th in the country in the 247 class rankings. And the latest commit is Greg Penn III, an inside linebacker out of Maryland, who is the 9th best inside linebacker in the country, a 4-star recruit for the Tigers, 4-star commit for the Tigers, picked LSU over a host of schools, which included Alabama and his home state, Maryland. I mean, it's an impressive list for LSU. Florida was in the mix as well. So, man, there's a couple of things about this that really stand out for me. And by the way, Greg Penn was on off the bench with Jordy and T-Bob this morning. Well, let's hear some of that in just a quick second. But first, a few things that for me I think are really significant. One, LSU adds a big linebacker. You're transitioning from a 3-4 to a 4-3, and this is something we've talked about a lot since the decision with Dave Aranda moving on and Bo Pelini coming in and moving from the 3-4 to a 4-3. There are two positions primarily that are going to be affected. Your inside linebacker spots and your defensive ends, because the 3-4 and the 4-3 at those positions look very different. You're not recruiting the 3-4 outside linebackers anymore that look like Caleb Von Chancellor or Marcel Brooks at 6'1", 195. You need guys that look like Landon Jackson, the defensive end out of Texas, who you got committed, who's 6'6", 240, and you could probably put another 40, 50 pounds on that guy if you need to. You know what I mean? Like, you need the guys that look like Daniil Hunter or Sam Montgomery, guys like that, and not guys that look like Marcel Brooks physically. You know what I mean? So that's one, but the other is linebacker. You need guys that are big physical thumpers that can stand in the middle of a defense and take on blocks from SEC interior linemen, shed those blocks, and make tackles. And that's what this looks like with Greg Penn. As a rising senior, he's at 6'1", 225. You know, once Tommy Moffitt gets a hold of him, he can put more weight on him, and you're talking about a guy that's going to be a really physical presence in the middle of the defense. So that part of it, I think, is critical. Two is the fact that LSU continues to dominate the national landscape of recruiting. There are certain programs in college football that have to recruit nationally. Notre Dame has to recruit nationally. They have no prospects in South Bend, Indiana. There's no prospects anywhere in Indiana. Tennessee is one of those programs that has to recruit nationally. When you look at Tennessee's great era in the 90s under Phil Fulmer and early 2000s, primarily you're talking about players from outside of the state of Tennessee. I mean, Peyton Manning's from Louisiana. Who was the Casey, whatever, the quarterback who looked like Iceman? He's from California. I mean, you had Clausen. You had so many players that made up those teams that were not from the state of Tennessee because they had to go recruit nationally. Well, when you're Ed Orgeron, like, you know you're going to recruit the state of Louisiana. But when you can get the best players from Louisiana and go cherry pick some of the top prospects in the country nationally, now you're talking about consistently elite classes and not really good classes that become elite when Louisiana is elite. When you can say, there's no Leonard Fournette or Darius Geis in Louisiana this year. Let's go to Ohio and get Corey Kiner. See what I mean? Oh, let's go get Rajon Davis, an outside linebacker out of California. 5-star. one of the top 15 players in the country to commit to LSU in a year where you're trying to sign linebackers. Get it? That's really what this does for LSU when you're recruiting nationally like they are. You got 3 prospects from Louisiana, but you got almost a dozen states represented among the 16 players that LSU has committed. And the latest is Greg Penn. Couple of ties to the state as well. His uncle, Corey Robinson, is on staff with the New Orleans Saints, so he'll be near his uncle. And LSU last year signed Jordan Tolles out of the Maryland area. So Jordan Tolles is from Baltimore. Penn is from Baltimore. So he said, this was in the 24/7 write-up. He said, I talked to Tolles and he loves it down there. It's really crazy. Growing up, you never think you go to LSU. It makes me speechless. Being where I'm from, a lot of kids don't make it out of this area because of what goes on within the violence and stuff like that. I'm blessed to have this opportunity. So a guy that clearly is a thumper in that defense and has his head screwed on correctly. And the other thing, too, that I think is really important is the fact that, number one, it's the first major recruit for Bo Pelini at linebacker, the position that's going to be his specialty. And then also, you continue to land out-of-state prospects amid the COVID shutdown. Listen, one of the things that's challenging for some coaches right now is that you can't get prospects on campus. And when you're talking about rising seniors, if they're going to play their high school season in the fall, and especially if they're at a long distance, you may not have the opportunity to get those guys on campus. So, I mean, that's one of the things that worked against LSU with Caleb Williams. He had a visit scheduled to LSU. It got nixed this spring because of COVID, and you never got him here. He ultimately commits to Oklahoma. Well, specifically with Greg Penn, he actually did visit LSU last year for the Florida game. Can you play this one, Brain? It's number 5. This was Greg Penn this morning on Off the Bench talking about coming to Baton Rouge last year for the Florida game.
I went to the Florida game this past year with my dad, and the atmosphere was crazy. We really loved it. I loved the way the defense was playing with Coach Aranda, and I could just see myself playing there. I really loved it down there. The academics are great. They have a great business school. Everything just fit with what I want to do with my career.
Also mentioned that this is the first linebacker commitment that Bo Pelini has secured. Here was Greg Penn talking about his relationship with Bo Pelini.
He's just a straight-up guy, and I love that about him. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's not going to he's going to be straight up with you. He's not going to lie to you. And he was honest the whole process, and I really appreciated that. He told me I was his number one guy, and I felt that. Me and my family felt that. And the things I hear about him, read articles about him, it's just that's the type of guy I want to play for.
Of course, he committed to Bo Pelini, but also to Ed Orgeron. Here was Greg Penn on Off the Bench talking about what he likes about Ed Orgeron.
It was great. When I went down for the visit, me and Coach O, my dad, we had a talk. He really just loved how I play the game of football, how I am as a person, and things like that. When I told him I was coming, he was ecstatic. Coach O was a loud dude, but he was really loud when I told him I was coming. But yeah, our relationship is great. He can't wait to get me down for an official so I can try some crawfish.
Greg Penn III, again, this morning on Off the Bench, he becomes the 16th commit for LSU's 2021 class. The other thing that he said that I think should be music to LSU staff's collective ears and to every LSU fan is the guys asked him why LSU is having success in the D.C. area. And here's what he said.
You just can't go wrong with LSU. For my part, the way they put in the linebackers in the league right now, they're LBU, they on top. I really want to play with Coach Pelini. I love the way he coaches, and the 4-3 defense I think that fits me well, and I'm just so excited. I can't wait to get started.
Why not LSU? That's what I mean when you've built the national brand to where you can go cherry pick top prospects nationally to fill the gaps in your class in areas where Louisiana might be deficient in a given year. That's why you can go to Florida and get a couple of kids. You get your quarterback out of Georgia. You get, that top outside linebacker out of California. You got a player from Maryland. You got the best offensive lineman out of Michigan. You got a running back out of Ohio. You got the best receiver out of Mississippi. I mean, it's incredible what they're doing right now, because when you put together classes like this year after year after year, that's how you maintain elite status, where you can lose 20 guys to the NFL in a given season, and then you come back the next year, look at the roster, and go, holy crap, they're going to be really good again. And they are going to be really good again. All right, so Greg Penn commits to LSU over the weekend. 16 pledges now for the Tigers for the class of 2021. Still with 9 spots available. They're already up to 5th in the 24/7 team rankings. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.